Can artificial intelligence out-diagnose a doctor? Can a phone bring a giraffe to life? And can this robot make this jump? Britain's National Health Service turns 70 this week, and it is struggling to keep up with the modern world. An increasing population who are living longer and who have evolving healthcare needs has led to not enough hospital beds, not enough access to specialised treatment, not enough nurses, and not enough doctors. The situation in developing countries is, of course, far worse. For a start, there's nowhere near as much money, but even where you do have money, you have the issue of the poaching of medical staff by richer nations. One hope is to plug the gap with artificial intelligence. IBM's Watson, for instance, fed with tons of data about cancer, may one day be better at diagnosing it than human doctors. And the hope is it will also be much cheaper.
I am your virtual medical assistant.
But more immediately, we're seeing the introduction of apps like San Francisco-based Sensely, which use AI to do a first diagnosis based on symptoms that we feed in. In other words, doing some of the work of a traditional GP. While some are sceptical that doctors can be replaced in this way, this week one company claims that its AI is now better than a doctor. Jane Copestake has been investigating.
Artificial intelligence has the potential to influence our lives in ways we can't yet understand. Nowhere more than in healthcare, where the decisions made by machines could be a matter of life and death.
Hi Alexa, I want to speak to Babylon.
Hello Louise, how can I help you?
At an event this week in London, Babylon Health claimed its artificially intelligent software can now diagnose illnesses better than the average doctor.
I think I might know what's been causing your symptoms. It is most likely to be Meniere's disease.
Take the paracetamol that we can prescribe.
The company has already launched GP at Hand with the NHS, providing remote access to medical services in London. But the only involvement of artificial intelligence here was an algorithm that runs you through a symptom checker. You would still talk to a human doctor for the diagnosis. Now Babylon says its software has reached a point where it can pass a medical exam with a higher average grade than a person.
What I found fascinating is that not only it performed as well as them, but in questions it had seen before, it had 98% accuracy. So once a machine learns something, it never forgets.
There are clear implications for this test for people in the world who don't have access to healthcare. Since 2016, Babylon have provided its healthcare service to Rwanda in Central Africa. Sub-Saharan Africa has 11% of the world's population, but carries a quarter of the world's disease burden and has just 3% of the world's medical staff. In Rwanda, the country faced a particular catastrophe with its healthcare system after suffering one of the worst atrocities in the last century. Over 800,000 people were killed in just 100 days in the genocide of 1994. This memorial in Kigali is the resting place for over 250,000 people who were killed in the areas surrounding the capital. The genocide touched nearly every person in Rwanda, decimating human resources. When the genocide ended, there were only 198 health professionals left for a population of over 6 million. It's difficult to overemphasize the challenges of rebuilding a society after such tragedy. But today, Rwanda is regarded as an economic success story in Africa. Its president, Paul Kagame, has invited tech companies to the country to test their ideas. First drones, and now artificial intelligence. We visited the offices of Babylon, called Babil in Rwanda, with the country's health minister. So the health minister is here to see a demonstration of how the AI triage works. The company already has 2 million registered users and has done thousands of consultations. Babil is using the same chatbot as its UK customers would use, but there are several differences here. Most people use feature phones, not smartphones, so the service is provided by a nurse who reads the text of the AI over the phone.
Hello, mwaramutse. Murakaza neza muri Babo Health.
This is a symptom checker, which would refer the patient to a human doctor. With long waiting times and long walks between homes and health centres, patients using the app can save a lot of time. After speaking to the nurse via the chatbot, Pacifique was able to pick up a prescription in about 10 minutes.
You see, this service is easy. You can use it at home and come to the hospital and they will see you immediately.
Babil have employed several methods to get the message out to the general population here. They hold rallies around markets all over the country and do a lot of on-the-street outreach. Many people we met were already signed up.
Oh, she's already registered.
Some even had appointments.
It's really good because sometimes you take a taxi and pay 6,000 Rwandan francs, and when you reach the hospital, you find the doctor's not there.
But for others, there are simple barriers stopping them using Babil.
I don't have a phone.
And on the chatbot, the government wants to see more country-specific data integrated into the software.
The artificial intelligence that is being tested here with Babil has been designed from the UK system. But as you know, public health issues are different in the UK and in Rwanda. For example, malaria. We didn't find any question related to malaria.
We need to give it some local context. So what we are actually doing is we are developing modules for those conditions that are not yet integrated into AI, like tuberculosis, HIV, maternal and child health, things that actually matter for our context.
Back in the UK, Babylon announced the results of its chatbot's performance on medical exams versus human doctors. They said its artificial intelligence achieved an average mark of 81% on its first attempt, versus 72% for a human. They calculated that average based on 5 years of medical exam results. But these claims have been met with skepticism by some senior doctors who question the timing of the release.
I wouldn't, with the research that I do, go public on it, have a big media event before putting it through the scientific process, because I want to know that the research that I'm doing is defensible, is rigorous, and that my peers agree with it. And I don't think we've been through that process yet.
This important debate will continue as artificial intelligence becomes more prevalent in our daily lives. Certainly critical to this is finding safe and rigorously tested ways to integrate the technology into routine medical care.
Hello, and welcome to the Week in Tech. It was the week that Uber was granted a short-term license to operate in London. It ended an uncertain period for the company following the decision by Transport for London not to renew its license last September. At the time, TfL said that the US taxi app was not a fit and proper operator. Adobe revealed that they are working on an artificial intelligence that can detect whether an image has been digitally altered. And the singles chart got another revamp, as official videos on sites like YouTube and Apple Music will now count towards the chart for the very first time. It was also the week that Facebook cancelled its plan to create drones that beam down internet connectivity from the sky. The project was first announced in 2014, but it hasn't all been plain sailing for the social network, with its drones failing to achieve consistently long flight times. And back down on the ground, the Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency, or DARPA to its friends, showed off a new combat vehicle that relied on an altogether different type of wheel. DARPA claimed that the result will be improved mobility and maneuverability. And finally, if you like nothing more than traditionally made pizza, you might want to look away now. This pizza making robot can spread the sauce, put the pizza in the oven, and even cut the pizza for you. The company behind the bot says it doesn't work faster than a human pizzaiolo, but can be more efficient by making several pizzas at the same time.
Deep in the heart of Boston's jungle of cables, something stirs. It is a cheetah. And it's off for a prowl. We're starting to see walking robots like this trotting out of labs all around the world. Now, the important skill here is not that they can walk a particular route autonomously. They're usually controlled manually using games controllers. No, the amazing skill here is that they can walk and balance as competently as we can, even on the most unforgiving of terrain.
Okay, see, that's impressive, okay? That slipped, lost its balance and regained its balance. That's the important thing.
Whoa, whoa, whoa. Good catch. Good shot.
How hard is this?
Very, very hard.
Yeah?
People quite not notice because we move our body very easily. But you have to make sure that we have actually 3-4 times more neuron for muscle movement than your actual forebrain. So we have about 700 muscle. And then we're trying to mimic that with using only 12 motor. Still pretty darn hard.
How close are we to robots like this being of practical use? And what do we still need to get right?
So I think we're pretty close in terms of mobility, like walking around, climb upstairs, and then turn. The harder challenge is still using arms. Like I send this to power plants where some radiation activity is going on. We don't know if it's sensor failure or real radioactivity. But to get there, you need to open doors. And opening doors is not a simple thing. You need to use arms and so on. And that's where the autonomous control failed very, very easily. So we're thinking about combining human manipulation and combined with the nearly autonomous navigation. So robot pretty much go by itself, and then, oh, I have a door, now human comes in, and then this is a force feedback haptic device, manipulate the arm and then open door, and then, okay, now we can go through the door, and then now we can autonomously navigate, and then, oh, check this radiation level, or check this valve, and then you can actually do some simple manipulation using teleoperation.
And Professor Kim has that in hand too. So really, really quick response.
And when the remote robot hit something or touch something, you feel the force.
Yeah. So that really feels like the mug is underneath my hand. So how does the Cheetah compare to the robots that seem to make all of the headlines these days? Those from the stable of Boston Dynamics.
Our lab is much younger. We've been only doing this like 6-7 years. So our software is pretty new. But I think we believe our hardware is actually better. We are the first one who started using electric motors to do this kind of dynamic motions. And then Boston Dynamics primarily use hydraulics, which is highly inefficient. After we're showing our robots, a lot of companies start doing electric motors. So I think eventually electric motor-based machine is going to be much more useful, safe, and cheap, and easy to maintain. But our electric motors are very different from the electric motors you can find in the factory. Those electric motors cannot actually handle impact, cannot absorb energy. But as you can see, our robots are actually landing and jumping, can do quite dynamic stuff.
They certainly can, as demonstrated by this exclusive look at a previously unseen maneuver. You can't hear it, but our cameraman swore then.
That wasn't pretty.
Yeah, but the thing is, it recovered and it stayed upright.
Yeah.
And I know people that couldn't handle the recovery there like that.
Yeah.
Cheetah and its predecessors have already pulled off some pretty spectacular moves, but before we all get too confident, let's just remember that this is still work in progress. I think it's time to hand over to Lara.
Augmented reality experiences seem to be all around us, but how close are we to being able to create our own? Adobe's Project Aero hopes to bring AR to the masses, and I've managed to get a preview of their prototype. Now, much like other products of Adobe's, they are starting off by releasing a professional version. The animated image to be placed in the AR first needs to be created in Photoshop, then moved into Adobe's 2D and 3D tool Dimension, the end result providing resolution and quality that they hope exceeds many other AR solutions out there. Long term though, the hope is that something simple will be available for anybody to create the assets themselves. The aim is a platform agnostic finished product. We tap on behaviour, then we request what we want it to do. So what does Adobe's release mean for this journey into a new AR world?
So I think really the fact that Apple is making such a big push with ARKit 2 is the real significant detail here. I think Adobe getting involved is just a pragmatic move. AR is becoming an important content delivery mechanism, and Adobe are all about making tools that make making content easy. So it makes complete sense that as this new medium emerges, they would want to get involved with their creative tools to actually make it possible for creatives to make their content.
But if what you really want to do is create your own simple augmented reality, maybe using something like a child's favourite toy, then I've found an app that should be able to help. Clone allows you to create 3D assets that can then be exported in different formats. So you may want to get something 3D printed, or you may simply want to put it into an AR world. Now, to start with, you're going to need a piece of paper like this. If you go to their website, you can actually print this off, and then you place your item on top of it. Now, if you've got a recent version of iOS, you won't actually need this if you're using an iPhone, but you do still need it on some other devices. So just for the purpose of filming, I've got it here. So it's time to start recording, and what I need to do is I need to walk around the object to fill out all of this dome so that it's recognised every part of it from every angle. Now this is a little bit time consuming. There, we've got it. It now has this 3D version of the giraffe. Whilst the scan here isn't perfect, it can be edited in the app or combined with the results of a second scan to perfect it. The models can then be shared on your social networks as well as saved in a variety of formats. Of course there's more to AR than just butterflies and giraffes, but for now we're perfecting how we're going to create it.
That was Lara, and just as augmented reality is moving into the realms of artists, the movie industry is also feeling its effect. Here's Mark Chislak in LA.
In 1902, moviegoers were thrilled by a trip to the moon. Georges Méliès's seminal silent movie delighted and amazed audiences. Since the earliest days of cinema, camera trickery and visual effects have brought the magic to the movies. These days, visual effects artists have an enormous amount of tools at their disposal, thanks to computers, which can bring the fantastical to life. Even in a world of computer-generated images and virtual actors, capturing stunning images in camera is a major bonus for lots of movie directors, and that's precisely what this technology allows directors to do. The AR wall replaces the back of a movie set with what looks like a 3D CG image played on a screen.
The AR wall system is live tracking the camera using sort of hacked together virtual reality gear that is able to sense how the camera is moving in, at 1,000 hertz a second. and then adapt to the movement of the camera to create a perspective illusion that is appropriate for the changing perspective of the camera.
Michigan Avenue proceeding north to 42nd Precinct.
In Hollywood's heyday, techniques like rear projection allowed actors to perform in environments which were much more controllable than the real world.
You sure?
With traditional rear screen projection, which I was a huge fan of growing up, the illusion has been around for decades, but there were limitations to it. Or the screen can sometimes look washed out in rear screen projection. And AR Wall seeks to allow the camera a freedom of motion in that you could just use it handheld however you want.
Lots of movies currently use green or blue screen for this purpose. And some films even go so far as to shoot entire scenes in green or blue screen, adding computer-generated effects including CG sets and characters in post-production. It allows for a massive degree of flexibility as far as effects are concerned. Not now, Jean-Claude! But achieving the level of visual effects virtuosity seen in most modern blockbusters is very expensive. Michael Plesher wanted to make a short film called The Mob Liberator. Problem is, he had champagne cinematic tastes, but a lemonade budget.
Our team wanted to develop the technology in a way that would make it so that you could film very kinetic, animated characters running around through the catwalks of a city or a scene, and have the camera person follow the actors spontaneously, and not with pre-planned camera moves.
Making this film would normally require extensive green screen work, with the sci-fi cityscape added later in post-production. Plesher assembled a team of technology and VFX experts, and their skills, combined with those of movie makers, created a technique which could bring his multi-million-dollar vision to the screen for a fraction of what it might normally cost.
It created sort of this, for actors, they're usually stuck sort of imagining what's going to fill in that green space. And with this technology, we had the luxury of taking the cards right out of the camera and just projecting it on a movie screen right then and there, and the actors could see exactly what movie they were in.
That was Mark in LA, and finally, with Wimbledon starting on Monday, I thought I'd get in some practice on court. And of course, I brought along my robot buddy. The Tennybot autonomously patrols the court and collects the balls that you've lobbed, smashed, or in my case, mishit.
Now, for any ball boys and ball girls out there who are worried about their jobs, don't worry, this is not designed to replace you at tournaments. This is more for people who want to practice and who aren't very good and end up with a lot of balls in the net. So you can carry on practicing, and the tennis bot will just chunter around, picking the balls up while you're busy being rubbish.
Its onboard camera spots the balls, and its partner at the net helps to keep track of things too. It's also got a handy detachable basket so you can easily return your balls if you have to. Then you can retire to your air-conditioned car, ball-sucking bucket on wheels in tow, and no one ever will suspect that you're the laziest tennis player alive.
And that is it for this week. We're hanging around in the US for another click next week. Hope you can join us for that. In the meantime, you can follow us on Facebook and Twitter at BBC Click. From Tennybots and me, see you soon.